Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré is already sending shockwaves across Africa, striking fear into the hearts of corrupt leaders who thrive on exploitation and foreign dependency. His decisive leadership, centered on national sovereignty and self-reliance, is rapidly reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The extent of his influence was on full display during his recent visit to Ghana, where over 20 heads of state gathered for the inauguration of Ghana's new president. The moment Traoré's name was announced, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Clear evidence that his vision is far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. But what exactly has Traoré done this year that has left corrupt African leaders panicking? Let me break it down. Unlike many African leaders who prioritize personal luxury, upgrading their cars, expanding presidential palaces, and indulging in lavish lifestyles, Traoré has taken a drastically different approach. He has focused on tangible actions that directly benefit his people, strengthening Burkina Faso's position both regionally and globally. One of his most significant moves so far in 2025 is the acquisition of new aircraft from Burkina Faso, not for personal comfort, but as a strategic investment in national infrastructure and sovereignty. This is a stark contrast to other leaders who misuse state funds for personal extravagance, while their countries remain dependent on foreign powers. However, his most groundbreaking achievement this year, and the one that has truly sent corrupt African elites into a state of panic, is the official rollout of the Confederation of Sahel States (AES) passport. On January the 29th, 2025, President Traoré personally completed his biometric enrollment and became the first recipient of the AES passport, marking a historical milestone for the region. This new travel document signifies a step toward a full regional integration, allowing citizens of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to travel freely within the Confederation without reliance on ECOWAS structure. More than just a passport, it represents a powerful statement of sovereignty, defiance against neo-colonial influence, and a commitment to a self-sufficient future. The impact of this move has already been felt. ECOWAS, which had long sought to control the region's economic and political affairs, has been dealt a serious blow. While existing ECOWAS passports remain valid until expiration, authorities are actively encouraging citizens to transition to the AES biometric passport, reinforcing the Confederation's break from West Africa's traditional power structures. This sends a clear message. The days of foreign-controlled policies and corrupt leadership manipulating African nations for personal gains are numbered. The Confederation of Sahel States is no longer just an idea, it's a reality in motion. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are forging their own path, strengthening economic security and political ties to ensure a future where their people are no longer pawns in the hands of external forces. To fully grasp the scale of what is happening in these three nations and the major geopolitical shifts they are planning in 2025, let's listen to a crucial speech from Mali's Foreign Minister, Abdoulaye Diop. In this speech, he unveils shocking details.
We realize that it has been a year since our countries left the ECOWAS, and I see all the mobilization around it. I can say, without the risk of being mistaken, that our countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, remain standing, remain dignified, remain resilient, but also our populations remain confident in their future, moving forward with determination for the realization of their full sovereignty, because our heads of state, what they have done is to take back the destiny of our country and also to prevent anyone from using our affiliation to an organization. The fact that we have abandoned a part of our sovereignty for the realization of African unity cannot be used in return to be able to punish, starve our populations, and even threaten to attack our countries. Since then, our countries have also organized themselves today. This is not just an answer to the ECOWAS, but we have decided to do what we want, and within the framework of the AES, we are trying to recreate a new form of solidarity, which is done in respect, which is done in complementarity, which is also done in the union and unity of our peoples, to rise together to fight insecurity, through defense and security, but also to allow our countries to speak in one voice through our diplomatic action, but also to strengthen development actions on the ground to be able to cement our different countries. So this is really the message. We remain standing, we move forward, and we look at the future with a lot of hope, with the feeling that we have reappropriated our countries and our destinies, and this is what is most important. Our history will now be written by ourselves and not by others.
So, Mr. Minister, you just participated in a meeting with your counterparts in Ouagadougou on the relationship between the African Economic Community and the Economic Community of West African States. What are the main outcomes of this meeting?
This meeting in Ouagadougou is not a first. Since the establishment of the Confederation of States of the Sahel, diplomacy is one of the important pillars. We have regular exchanges, and throughout the year we have worked on a number of issues. Now, the meeting in Ouagadougou was for essential objectives, also taking into account the evolutions that have taken place in our region, and the fact that it's been a year since we left the ECOWAS, and that we are trying to go in the direction that we have chosen, was to be able to finalize the approach that has been adopted between our three countries in relation to the management of our relations with the ECOWAS, but from entity to entity. That is, how the AES will establish its relations with the ECOWAS. And in this context, you know that we lost almost 11 months after our departure. The ECOWAS had not realized, they had not even taken our departure seriously, and I think there were more or less happy or unhappy attempts to make us come back. And all that made us lose time to finally realize that our decision was definitive. And from that moment on January 13th, we received an email from the Commission proposing discussions. Our countries have never been closed under the direction of our heads of state, President Goïta of Mali, President Traoré of Burkina Faso, and President Chiani of Niger. It was agreed to accept this agreement and to address the discussion collectively as the Confederation of States of the Sahel with the ECOWAS to be able to agree on the arrangements to be put in place for a peaceful coexistence of the two organizations, but above all, to work to preserve the interests of our populations. So it was really the main objective of the Ouagadougou meeting to really be able to go in a collective approach of exchanges to reach an agreement.
So you talked earlier about attempts to bring you back. Did you consider negotiations at this stage? If so, concretely on what issues?
Madam, we must first realize that our countries left the ECOWAS on January 28, 2024. I repeat, on January 28, 2024, 1 year ago. So for us, any discussion can only lead to the continuation of our retreat. So now, it is an organization that has been built over several decades. There are several agreements and arrangements that have been put in place. So it is necessary. Someone spoke, I think I was listening to the Prime Minister earlier. He spoke as a spokesman for the government. He spoke of I forgot if it was a journalist, who spoke of divorce. In the case of a divorce, everything does not settle in one day. I believe that there is child custody. There are many things. So these are the discussions that we must have to be able to have the necessary agreements. I think that from the moment they come now, why discuss the consequences given to our retreat, and that we ourselves are willing to discuss to advance the interests of our populations? I remain confident that we will find the necessary areas of agreement that can preserve the stability of the region, but also the stability of our populations.
The AES already has a passport, but many questions are asked about the mobility of citizens of space and their property. Mr. Minister, should we expect visas between the AES and the ECOWAS?
This is a sovereign act that we have taken in relation to this. In December 2014, you saw that the College of Heads of State of the AES adopted a declaration in which we indicate that the AES is a space without a visa for the resources of the member countries of the ECOWAS. to show once again that for us, our AES populations, like non-AES populations, are the same people. So to strengthen their identity, they can continue to feel at home, and that they will not need a visa in relation to this. Now, for the other questions, I think that the ongoing discussions with the ECOWAS will allow us to determine the extent of this question, of visa or not, and other arrangements in relation to free movement. But I also have to say that free movement is not a creation of the ECOWAS. Our states went into independence in the 1960s. From 1960 to 1975, we did not hear about the imposition of visas between our countries. These are the battles, the results of the struggles of the founding fathers of independence to be able to create strong relations of solidarity between our countries. And then, if we look today, even from the point of view of leaving the ECOWAS, it is true, but from the point of view of the UEMO, the Economic and Monetary Union of West Africa, where our countries remain members, the provisions in relation to free movement of people are the same as at the level of the ECOWAS. So from this point of view, if the texts are preserved, there is no particular concern. And in addition to that, there are bilateral arrangements that existed between our countries before the existence of the ECOWAS. As long as these agreements are not denounced, I think these different elements are there, and the negotiations will allow us to define them. In any case, as far as we are concerned, we can only decide for ourselves. Our heads of state and our populations have indicated that we are in a Pan-Africanist vision. There are some differences, as the Minister of Burkina Faso indicated earlier, between some leaders of certain countries and our states, but for us, we are the same people. We do not work to divide the populations. We work in any case to find the necessary arrangements to preserve our populations. Because once again, both sides have to get out of the dynamic of saying that we are going to punish the populations, to overthrow the regime, to be able to raise them against their regime. But our populations are united. They are the same populations. There are achievements that are not the achievements of any state, of any head of state, and even of any country in particular. So we remain confident. We start this discussion with this principle and this vision that we must create a space for our populations and preserve the achievements.
Mr. Minister, can we conclude that the people of the AES are in phase with the authorities?
The leaders are totally in phase with the populations. The populations, I think, must be saluted. It is an extraordinary mobilization. Populations such as the General of the Army, our President, Assimi Goïta, often says that the population is our center of gravity. I will add my own touch that the population is our fatal weapon. If you look at what happened, why this mobilization is important, the foreign forces that were in Mali, that were in Burkina, or that were in Niger, they did not fire a single shot. They left because our populations rose up and said no. And every time we mobilize, we speak in one voice. We show our determination. Nothing can stop us. So I think this mobilization must be saluted within our countries, but also in several African countries, and even within the diaspora. I think it sends an image of determination to the whole world that our populations want to go in another direction. They no longer want to be colonized or dominated. They want to be masters of their destiny. They really want to be able to change things for them. So I would like to salute not only their mobilization, but also all the resilience of our populations. The Minister of Burkina indicated that it was not easy. It will not be easy. It will be a long work. It will not be a fight of President Goïta, President Traoré, or President Chiani. I think it will be a long-term fight to preserve our countries, to preserve the dignity of our populations, to once again reappropriate our countries and our destinies.
So a message of assurance for these peoples?
The message of assurance is to tell each other, despite all the campaign of intimidation, of misinformation, let's stay serene. We have been in this situation for a year. We continue to move forward. We ask our populations in the diaspora to follow the heads of state, the presidents of the transition, the Prime Minister, and all the other heads of state. The other members of the Confederation are determined to work. Their only concern is the defense of the interests of the population, and in this context, we will engage with great serenity in the discussions with the heads of state, indicating that this is not a first. Mauritania has left the ECOWAS. It is still there. It is moving forward. It has excellent relations with other countries. The case of Brexit between Great Britain and the European Union is there to show that this type of process can be long. So we do not try to threaten people. We know what we want, and we know what we are worth too. So on this basis of confidence and serenity, and especially with a clear indication of our heads of state in relation to what has been achieved, we will not go into unnecessary confrontations, but we will also fight to defend and preserve the interests of our populations and ensure that we can maintain the best relations between us. No one will move the other from this space. We have left the ECOWAS. We are not leaving West Africa. We will have to find ways to coexist between the EU as an entity and the CDAO to preserve our populations.